The second one is gratitude, and it begets service. So from a place of gratitude, service to others becomes selfless and natural as a way of recompense, a way of giving back to the world for which you're grateful. So gratitude, if you're really in a state of gratitude, truly in a state of gratitude, it should put you right into a state of service. You should be so grateful that you want to give something back to God's creation, to whatever person that you're grateful to or situation that you're grateful to, and whatnot. So gratitude begets service. The third I don't know what kind of intro that was, but there it is. We're trying a new little sound system over here. It's a microphone. A micro. All right, so Don't Hold Your Breath podcast, episode number, it's 28. I appreciate everybody that is out there watching. I'm excited to hear that more people than I thought are actually watching. So, shout out to y'all. And hopefully we will start maybe having some guests and doing some interviews and talking about the same type of themes and thematics. So let's talk about self-awareness. This is back to the John C. Maxwell book called High Road Leadership. A great book. We've covered a few points in various episodes from Maxwell's fantastic book that's currently underneath the fan. This is a new piece of scenery in the background because something's going on with the AC today. Hot as things you can't say. So I'll just jump right into it. A pathway to acknowledging your humanness, self-awareness. Most of us believe that we are self-aware. However, researchers have found few people are truly self-aware. What do researchers know? Only 1 or 2 individuals out of 10. That means it's more than 80% likely that you are not self-aware. I'm probably not. I've definitely worked on becoming more self-aware, but I need y'all's help in the comment section, and we'll get to that in a second. How can you change that? Start by answering some questions. These will help you with internal self-awareness. How well do you know your strengths? Do you know what gifts and abilities you possess that set you apart from others? How about your weaknesses and flaws? Do you know what they are? Are you realistic about them? More importantly, are you honest and open about them? With other people, I think is understood in that question in the book. He doesn't say that specifically, but it sounds like, are you realistic about them yourself? And then more importantly, are you honest and open about them? Meaning at least to yourself, probably with at least your inner circle, and maybe even with sort of other concentric circles in your leadership influence sphere. So what about your feelings? How aware are you of them? How do you react in response to challenges, opposition, indifference, failure, and conflict? How do you handle success? Have you identified your values? Have you thought through what you would and would not do in support of those values? Equally important to your development of self-awareness is being conscious of how other people respond to you. So answer these questions. When you interact with people, do they find you overly talkative, aloof, aggressive, condescending, abrupt, kind, transactional? When things go wrong, how do people react to your reaction? In general, are you liked or disliked, sought out or avoided? Knowing how others experience you is another key to unlocking your leadership. The more self-aware you become, the easier it will be for you to be yourself and take the high road with others. Self-awareness and self-acceptance or self-love or self-confidence, those are all tied together. So this is a little bit of an investigation. It's a little bit of a deep dive today. And I'm going to start with something which I heard on a Chris Williamson podcast with a guy named Tim Ferriss. It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. Think about that, but act on that. But think about it right now. Don't act on it right now. Watch this podcast right now. It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. So getting to the questions at hand. How well do you know your strengths? Do you know what gifts and abilities that you have that set you apart from others? Well, one of my strengths is that I'm a mediator. I'm an empathic person that can put myself pretty easily into someone else's shoes and see things from their perspective. So when I go to a table where 2 people are having issues with each other, I'm very good at helping one see from the other's perspective and vice versa, and being able to have everybody meet in the middle. And there's definitely a lot of power, a lot of strength in that capability. I'm highly creative. I'm a very creative problem solver because I'm creative as well. I think very much outside the box, which is another benefit of having that sort of creativity. Left brain, I guess. Right brain, left-handed. I'm not left-handed, but you get what I mean. Outside the box thinking. I'm inspirational and help to build and manifest big dreams for people. I tend to believe more in people than what they believe in themselves, which makes me an inspirational person to be around. And I have a very strong work ethic. And so those are the ones that I listed out just during this exercise. It's taken a long time to actually not just recognize those, but some of them weren't strengths before that I've actually worked consciously on building. So especially the work ethic, being inspirational to people, instead of just having the big dreams, I can actually kind of back up some of that growth with people now. So a lot of these things have been a journey to get to those strengths. And I think on deeper investigation, I'm sure I could find some different ways to articulate those particular strengths that maybe are sort of more towards the root. Weaknesses, how about your weaknesses and flaws? Do you know what they are? Are you realistic about them? More importantly, are you honest and open about them? So this is where I'm going to need some help from you guys to see, am I realistic about them? You can put some stuff in the comments. Don't worry about offending me. Don't worry about any sort of, I would really appreciate the most honest and transparent feedback, because it's up to me to deal with that. The reality is that whatever your perception is of your interaction with me, if you actually are a person who's interacting with me, you have some input on what, how realistic I am about the list of weaknesses, how honest and open am I about them. Let me know, and let me know what I've missed on strengths and weaknesses both as well. So I put down here negative self-talk as the top of my list. I'm definitely very, very hard on myself internally. I beat myself up a lot, which I continue to work on. Moodiness and inconsistency. I can change moods like on a dime. Anybody that knows me well knows that I can be, happy, scrappy 1 minute, and then like literally seconds later, just be Dr. Doom or whatever, lack of discipline, lack of follow through or low level of follow through, and emotional or reactive. I'm definitely a very emotional person. I cry in songs, I cry in movies, I get pissed off easily. I will lose my temper visually, verbally, not usually physically, but can be. So definitely emotional, definitely reactive, definitely have trouble with follow through. I get distracted easily. I have like the ADHD type of mentality. So I'll start a project, I'll get super gung-ho about it. I'll put a bunch of stuff on my plate that I probably can't handle, and then I'll end up swiping half of that stuff off the plate and not ever actually finishing or following through the project. So that's something I'm definitely working on from both sides, as far as setting the goals in a more reasonable level first, and then making sure that I get all the way to achieve those goals and follow through, especially on promises that I'm making to myself. It's very important to make sure that you have a good relationship with yourself. So lack of discipline is also something that's able to be worked on. Like anything else, if you do figure out a system to keep yourself motivated through the hard times, I guess is the most important part, is those days that you really don't want to get out of bed and do the discipline. If you can get up and go through the motions, just do it anyway. That's an important aspect of building discipline. And then just doing hard things like the ice bath, I think, is a really good thing. Ice bath or cold shower, even if you can do one of those things, you're going to stand in front of that water and you're going to not want to go in there. Even for me, the first few times it was like, there's a novelty to it. It's cool. I'm getting, this brisk wake up call. And I'm like, just get it over with, dude. Just jump in there and get it over with. And so you have to reach a point where you push yourself into just getting it over with. And I think repeatedly doing that time after time after time is beneficial to growing the discipline, which is the, Jonathan, correct me if I get this wrong, it's the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. That is a part of the brain that actually grows every time you push yourself into discomfort. It's the discipline center of the brain. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Let me know. Moodiness, inconsistency. It's, again, just awareness of the moment. I'm working on being able to stay out of that, bring, good vibes to the room every time. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, kind of idea. And the negative self-talk. There's a lot of positive self-talk that's filling up that space. There's a lot of gratitude that's filling up that space. I've been able to eliminate a lot of the negative self-talk as long as my actions are there. And this goes back to that phrase. It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. Because if you do, even if I do like 20% of what's on the accountability chart, yeah, there's a sense of, hey, you got to do better than this. But there's also, there can't help but, because you did those actions and you were able to check them off that list, you get some sort of positive recognition that is undeniable from that. So the more positive stuff that you do, the easier it is to squash that negative self-talk. And then there's days that get harder to be able to squash that, even if you've done all the things that you're supposed to do, because something happens or whatever it is, even if it's just a chemical thing that's going on where you have a cycle in your brain that just continues to go into these like up and down patterns, which I kind of have some of. You have to be able to recognize that on those hard days, it's even more important to stay maybe an extra 5 minutes in the meditation, give an extra little 5 notes of gratitude, or so you just kind of have to push that negative self-talk out with positive self-talk, and mainly with action. Action will crush all of that stuff. The inaction is really what causes a lot of the negative self-talk and a lot of that negative self-image. And like I'd say, like rightfully so. Get up and do your shit. Otherwise, when you feel shit about yourself, I mean, you're not 100% wrong. You're just 100% wrong when you identify it with like, I'm just this useless kind of person or whatever, rather than saying, man, I've been wasting a lot of time doing a lot of useless stuff. I deserve better than that. I'm a much better person than that. I need to demonstrate that through my actions. And so if you can manage to do that, that also spreads around the world. Eventually, you can affect the lives of those around you, and then that can reverberate out into more and more people to positively affect the entire network you're connected to, which can be really millions of people. Okay, so what about your feelings? How are you aware of them? How do you react in response to challenges, opposition, indifference, failure, and conflict? And how do you handle success? These are really important questions, I think. And I wrote a note on here. These are good interview questions and workbook practice exercises for team building. So if you guys are leading a team somewhere, these are good things to actually bring up. If you have an environment that you work in that actually wants to grow people and strengthen your team and create empowered individuals, by all means, use all of this stuff as it is in there. If you have a place that is a little bit more sensitivity focused, you may just be aware of that, maybe like run it through HR before you do some of this stuff. I mean, this is John C. Maxwell, so I would think that, it's a pretty good track record, but you never know. There's some weird stuff going on out there these days. So how do I handle failure? Massive negative self-talk, deep spirals. I get into these self-perpetuating pity parties of patheticness. Is that enough peace for you? Big negative self-talk, big deep spirals of depression. I'll lose heart. I give up on stuff, or I want to give up on stuff, or I'll drag my feet and give up on stuff for a while until I can pull myself out of it, or someone around me in my team pulls myself out of it because I'm fucking being stupid. Because really, at the end of the day, that's all that is. It's all a bunch of stuff that was programmed in at some point, and I'm just working on deprogramming. So all of that stuff that causes the negative self-talk, I say it doesn't really matter, because not in the sense that that I'm not valuable enough to create a healing behind it or something like that. I'm saying it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter who you are or what your story is or what you fucked up in the past. The past is the past. We're focused on moving forward. We're not focused on holding our breath and looking backwards. We're focused on not holding our breath, breathing through, and going into the next cycle so that we can continue to grow and learn and not lose heart and not give up and not have to have negative self-talk, but instead, under the pressure or stress of a failure, we can twist that perspective into something effective, and we can actually find the positives. We can find things that we learn, find things not to do the next time. And I'm sure that there's, if you put your mind to it, there's a long list of benefits that you can find from every failure that you perceive. And then how do you handle success? Funnily enough, there's some of that imposter syndrome with me, as far as when I have a success, part of me doesn't feel like I deserve it. I have to work on that in the moment. Next time I have a big success, and maybe work on that day to day when I'm doing my meditations and, visualization and manifestation work, and having that feeling that I do deserve the win. The irony of that is that the first thing I wrote down here was egotistical, because I will get egotistical. I think it's a defense mechanism, because I really inwardly feel like I don't really deserve this. So I kind of feel like, oh yeah, we crushed it. We're the best, type of reaction. The two more important ones, and I think that are much more productivity focused and resolvable, is I get bored. When I have a success, I will hit that first marker of the success, and I'll think, oh, okay, I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. But actually, creating a restaurant concept is a good analogy here, because you can create the restaurant concept up to the opening. You have a fantastic opening day, everything's successful. You open for a week, a month, 6 weeks, and then it's like, yeah, we're done. I'm bored with this. I don't really want to be involved. And then you start dropping the ball because the maintenance phase comes along and rears its ugly head, and a creative person like myself, we just get bored. So creating systems is a good bulwark to that. Training a strong secondary level team is important to that, and continuing to grow the organization and from internal promotions is another good solution to that. Getting bored on smaller projects, that's something I just have to push through. That just requires discipline, and then inconsistency and follow through will be another reaction to success that I have, because of the same thing. I think that's just another way of saying the same thing: getting bored, inconsistent, no follow through. And again, I just have to discipline myself and work on those kind of things, and set up a support structure around me that's going to make sure that we have some consistent follow through to fall back on. That if I'm not there attentively, if I'm not there, like my attention and energy is not there 100%, and a good transparent communication system so that they can say, hey, Chef, where you at, man? Get your head in the game. make sure that we stay focused, and they can call me out on my bullshit as much as I need to be by peers on that level of my team, So have you identified your values? Have you thought through what you would and would not do in support of those values? Yeah, I have. And we talked about this actually on the episode with Brandy and I on our 10th anniversary episode, which was pretty cool to go through and come up with these values for the home and for our home team. And they're set up where there's a value, and then there's what that value begets or creates into the world by sticking to that value. So humility begets benevolence. Stay humble so you're always open to learn and assist at all levels without any judgment. So if you stay humble, you're always open to learn new things, and you're always able to, well, let's say it makes it much easier to be an approachable teacher and to have people open to what you have to offer if you're humble about it. And then you can assist people at all levels, and then you don't have any sort of judgment towards them and say like, oh, that person's stupid, they can't learn anything. It's a very important aspect of being a leader, in my opinion, and that's something that is definitely more recent. If some people who worked with me 10 years ago end up watching this podcast, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? You're a dickhead." Sorry, you got me in the growth. You're absolutely right. I've made a lot of mistakes to get where I am today. Thanks for bearing with that, and would love to be able to have a chance to work with you again. What else do you want me to say? So the first one is humility. It begets benevolence. The second one is gratitude, and it begets service. So from a place of gratitude, service to others becomes selfless and natural as a way of recompense, a way of giving back to the world for which you're grateful. So gratitude, if you're really in a state of gratitude, truly in a state of gratitude, it should put you right into a state of service. You should be so grateful that you want to give something back to God's creation, to whatever person that you're grateful to or situation that you're grateful to and whatnot. So gratitude begets service. The third one is adaptability, which begets productivity. Adaptability allows for open production of the fuel that will get us through the race near the finish line. Adaptability means you're open to every opportunity, and you're adaptable as far as how you're going to be able to manifest that opportunity and turn it into new capital, right? New gains, new productivity. If you are adaptable and you can adapt to whatever situation you're in, and you can do a little bit more with a little bit less, then you're going to be more productive at the end of the day. It allows for open production of the fuel or the capital that will get us through the race near the finish line. Persistence begets results. Persistence is what gets you across the finish line. Because if you have the adaptability and you produce, you're going to have to push through difficult situations to bring yourself to the next level of productivity, or to get, all the way through that goal that's going to produce the actual final capital result. Persistent adherence and focus will give the final push across the finish line and keep us in first place for the long term. And then the last one is discipline, and discipline begets cultivation, because it gives you levels of self-reliance that you can exemplify and you can share with others, and it allows the possibility to be able to cultivate future generations. The discipline actually begets cultivation. If you discipline yourself, you become an example for other people, really, whether you want to or not. Somebody is going to look at you if you are a disciplined person, and they're going to go, "Hey, I want that as well. How did you do that?" And you're going to go, "It's fucking hard, bro." Step up. And they can either take the example and they can follow it, or they can take the example and they can say, "Man, that's too much. I can't do that." And then they have to come down to the reality of where they're actually willing to manifest what level of their reality they are willing to put in to create. But if you're actually disciplined and you're actually producing results at a very high level, and you're showing the pudding, the proof in the pudding of that discipline, it's going to actually cultivate other people and inspire other people. It gives you an opportunity to be an example and to be able to sort of multiply yourself out into the world. What we do today echoes in eternity, right? That's what that means. So those are the values. And then, so the last questions over here: when you interact with people, do they find you overly talkative, aloof, aggressive, condescending, abrupt, kind, transactional? Yes, 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 probably yes, 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 probably yes, 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 probably all those things at some time or another. Some people probably think I'm very talkative. In fact, I know some people do think I'm very talkative. Am I aloof? I don't think so. I think I'm pretty involved, and I'm pretty opinionated, and you're going to know if I think that something's not a good idea, especially if you're talking about working in teams. I've become pretty communicative and pretty confidently so over the past several years, since I've been back in the States, for sure, since I've owned a Copy Carne and built that into a business. I would say I am probably too over communicative rather than watching my mouth, which I should do more of. Aggressive. Definitely people will think I'm aggressive. Condescending. Definitely people will think I'm condescending. I don't know why they would be so fucking stupid to think I'm condescending. Abrupt, yes, I'm abrupt. Kind, some people will think I'm kind, some people might not. Am I transactional? I kind of don't. I don't know that people would think that I'm transactional. That sort of relies like a lack of emotion or like a roboticness, and I don't think that I really have that. But maybe I do. I don't know. And I'm sure those are what, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 adjectives. I mean, how many adjectives are out there that can describe how people find me? I mean, there's probably a lot, and they're not all good. That's for sure. When things go wrong, how do people react to your reaction? In general, are you liked or disliked? Are you sought out or avoided? So this is a two-part question for me because, like I said, there's people who worked with me 10 years ago, 15 years ago. They don't want to have anything to do with me. There's nobody like from that time period really like reaching out, going like, "Oh man, I really enjoyed working with you, and really would love to work with you and learn from you again." And there's a lot more people from the last few years who are in that camp because I've made a lot of changes to the way that I react and the way that I handle my own reactions, my own equivocated reactions, like my own erroneous reactions to things. I'm more aware of it. I'm more apologetic about it, and empathetic and understanding that people, when they have to put up with my bullshit, that they are putting up with my bullshit, and that I'm sorry that they have to have gone through that. And I try not to shit out as much bulls and stuff. I think in general, at this point, I'm more liked than disliked, and I feel like I'm more sought out than avoided, especially in the places where I'm currently working. How many people are still reaching out to you about stuff from the old place? There aren't that many, but there are more than there were previously. While I'm in the place and working in the place, I would say at Trattoria Sofia, I might have been avoided a little bit, whereas my sort of management level people would come and find me and seek me out. Anyone below that would probably not, because they did not want to elicit a negative reaction from me. And getting into federal, I think people would actually come to me when they felt like they couldn't talk to other leadership in the company or even on the team. So I somehow flipped that. I definitely made a big shift in my management style leaving Trattoria Sofia. I punched a marble countertop and broke my hand because I was pissed off about a fried food item that came out wrong all the time, or they'd run out of it and not tell you. And I think they ran out of it and didn't tell me again. And I punched the countertop and I broke my hand, fractured my, metacarpal or whatever the shit is here. And that was a big lesson. That was a big like, hey, dude, this is really stupid. This is really stupid. You're gonna just damage yourself permanently over some dumbass that can't count things on a deep fryer. So be better than that. Be better than that to them. Be better than that to yourself. And there's a lot more potential in other ways of reacting to that actually will provide positive guidance rather than take accountability. So I'm the one that should have figured out a different accountability system for that, like setting some of the batter aside every night to have like a backup for the count, or actually writing down the count on a piece of paper at my expo or something. I mean, there's a bunch of things I could have thought of, but I wasn't thinking. I was just reacting emotionally. So that was a negative space that taught me a big lesson. And by the time when I got to federal, I would still occasionally react emotionally. The only people I would really lose my temper with a little bit were some of the, as a executive chef, culinary director, R&D chef, or whatever title of the ones that they gave me that you want to choose. I would lose my temper with the GM sometimes. I don't really remember a lot of times that I would lose my temper with cooks or with sous chefs, or what they call them, assistant kitchen managers. Not to say there weren't frustrations that I would vent to other people, but I know specifically I did have to talk down the first GM that was there when I started because he was overstepping with some of my staff and my team. But overall, I gained a lot of good rapport with a lot of people there, from the cooks to the mid-level management to the upper-level management. So definitely was a big turning point for me in the career. I learned a lot about this type of management philosophy, and that was one of my goals. It was one of my questions when I started with Berg. Like, do you have any classes in sort of management psychology and being able to teach management styles and motivation and leadership? And they didn't really have anything, but I really wanted to work with Matt because he was really into all this stuff and had a bunch of these books on his shelf, and would like to talk about it. So that was a company that that's the reason why I was attracted to that company. All right, so I think we're good. That's a long recording. That's a longer recording than usual. Thank y'all for sticking around and listening. Hope you guys got something out of this. We will see you again soon. No promises as to when. It's been a very busy couple of weeks here. It's about to be another busy week on top of it. Really appreciate everybody watching. Do not hold your breath. Keep on pushing. Keep on moving. You got this.